Today is something I should have done on Friday, but instead I did my laptop story, which is week 3 review. So this week was a pretty interesting one because I started with this being the first week where I'm back in town and really excited about what I could achieve this week. Ultimately, that did not happen for a variety of reasons. As I documented on my Wednesday video, I believe, the first half of the week was derailed by a set of things that were ultimately stemming from my inability to go to sleep on time because of scrolling, and then my waking up late, which really threw off the rest of my week. So that sort of meant that the second half of the week was very imperative that in the second half of the week I focused on making sure that I locked in on work. And ultimately Thursday was that. I did make a lot of progress on the things that I needed to get done on Thursday. I wasn't as productive as I wanted it to be because I needed to catch a train that ended up being earlier than I expected. After that, I had the saga that I documented in the laptop story, which was a series of complicated events that I had to juggle all in my head on Friday. And what that ultimately meant was I didn't get all of my goals done. If I just look at the goals that I had for the week, I don't think I achieved all of them. However, I will say that I think I achieved a lot more than I would have expected if I had not had the theme of turning pro and the focus on trying to improve my ability to work. That being said, the things that I got done are not the things that I perpetually procrastinate. There are these projects that I have been finding any excuse to not do. And I don't mean that in a conscious way. Every time there is an emergency or something extracurricular, that's the wrong word, unprecedented, the thing that I end up deprioritizing are these tasks that I think I shouldn't be deprioritizing. And as a result, I think that sometimes those are the goals that I need to be focusing on the most because those are the goals that I am neglecting the most. After that Friday, I did intend to spend some time on the weekend doing some work. While I don't usually do work on a weekend, I did think it would be important for me to just get some work done, because if I was to end the week with a success, even if it was slightly later, then I would be able to start the week 4, with actually some positive momentum. But I continue to learn the lesson that my core problem is this thing called autonomy need frustration, which is effectively the time that I need in my week is I need some time in the week, effectively, to be unstructured time to do as I please. And that doesn't mean scheduling fun things like hobbies or events or whatever. What it actually means is time which is completely unfilled, that I can do anything with literally as I please in that moment. And that's the thing that makes it hard for me to do work on the weekends. I feel an extreme resistance to doing something that I feel this somewhat injustice towards, because I feel like I shouldn't have to do it on the weekend. And that is a big psychological driver underlying the fact that I end up not doing any work on a weekend. If I have work that I have decided I'm going to do on the weekend, and sometimes what that looks like is I get stun locked in this procrastination loop, in that I decide that if I can't do that work, this is a subconscious process, I think. I decide that if I'm not going to do that work, then I can't do any fun things either. And that also manifests in my body, in the sense that I think that there is a driver of fatigue that can come from just this cognitive process battling in my brain. So I think that's the kind of weekend that I've had, because I have slept a lot more than I expected. And maybe part of the reason is just because I've been getting some poor sleep. And then Friday was an extremely eventful day and I have a lot of tiredness from that. But I also think there's this psychological component. So all of that to say, I think that week 3 has revealed some core psychological blocks that have been inhibiting me, not just last year, but maybe throughout my entire life. This need for periods of time that I can be autonomous, and the fact that whenever something goes wrong, I am very quick to abandon the goals that I have always been procrastinating. So that's how week 3 has gone. I think I do need to take a little bit of time just to refocus on Monday, because today I just kind of want to chill out and go to sleep early. That was the other thing that I haven't been doing. I'm going to try and lock in on trying to improve my sleep schedule. One other thing that's really difficult to do with is because I can't run. Running was one of the things that really anchored my sleep schedule because I was physically fatigued by the end of the day. And I can't run because I have an injury right now. And low-key, I'm not doing the rehab exercises that I need in order to improve the running because I just don't like strength-based exercising right now. I haven't learned to love it. I'm sort of going through a process of trying to learn to love exercise. And I've only found that I have learned to love cardio. I haven't figured out how to love strength training just yet. So the fact that I feel physically not exhausted by the end of the day does contribute to my ability to sleep, and then ultimately the whole thing sort of dysregulates. So I think that this week has really been revealing for figuring out what it is that is holding me back in my progress in life. And I think that's a procrastination loop that starts with there's something unclear in that, because there is a procrastination loop that comes from pushing work into spaces of time that I have deemed full autonomous, but there's this unclear, hazy thing in the middle, which is basically that I seem to jump to procrastinate these very specific goals, and I need to figure out why that is in order to then problem solve that. Because I think that once you can figure that out, you can really work through it. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about and how the week has gone. Again, I take a very non-failure or success mindset to goals. It's all about learning from those goals, but also sincerely trying to achieve them to the best of my ability. So that's generally how I think the week has gone. And next week will be about making a lot of progress on my goals, but also really focusing on what it is that's stopping me from achieving my goals psychologically. And I'm looking forward to problem solving that.